Oh, it's heating up. We're entering the second half of August, peak fundraising time for both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Politico, the website, now reporting some big numbers, which seem to show just how different the campaign strategies are. Hillary Clinton's campaign reportedly spent $2.9 million in July on its roughly 700-person staff and nearly $26 million more on advertising. In comparison, again, this is according to Politico, the Trump campaign reportedly spent $400,000 on a staff of 84. And Politico is reporting that the Trump campaign spent more than 4 times as much on merchandise and hats for those huge crowds that he sees. Let's bring in our Fox News political insiders from Charleston, South Carolina via satellite tonight. But warm and cozy up close in our hearts is Pat Caddell, a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter and Fox News contributor. John LeBoutelier, former Republican congressman for New York, and Doug Schoen, former pollster for President Bill Clinton and a Fox News contributor as well. John, I'm going to start with you and the spending. Donald Trump arguably is leaving his mark every place he goes, and some say that could be real strategy in terms of leaving something tangible.
Well, his strategy all for the last year was, I can get everything I need in free media. And
he gets a lot.
He gets a lot, but it's not enough. And he's behind in virtually every poll in every state, right? And we used to wonder this year, will TV ads, traditional TV ads, have any impact? They didn't in the primaries in the Republican race. But in the general, Hillary has applied heavy money. Now, you put up her campaign, but her PAC is spending 5 times more in the 10 or 11 battleground states. And so,
buying ads here in New York, which is not even a battleground state, but it's where
not
Trump
in
lives.
New York.
Right.
No, they're
but
buying it on national cable.
Yeah.
They're on national cable, but they're everywhere. And so she's doing that. He's not. Now, whoever would have thought Donald Trump? I say to you, Donald Trump, you right away, the first thing you think is really rich. That the richest guy ever to run for president would not be financing this campaign. He should have written out a check for $500 million to his campaign and not worried about money, and then spent all his time running against Hillary. And he didn't do it.
So the argument, Doug, there is that he didn't have to previous to this. But I want to get to a viewer question. Randy writes, if Trump's pivot, as some people see it, is successful, when will it show up in the polls? You're a pollster.
Well, first, there has been some tightening in the national numbers this week. There was one poll out today, had him a couple of points ahead. It's been somewhat of an outlier, but there's a slight...
Rasmussen shows him shows them tightening too.
There is a but, and I need to underscore that. In the swing states that John alluded to, where Hillary Clinton's advertising heavily both on her own and through her super PAC, Hillary is ahead in virtually every swing state. She's close to 350 electoral votes when you add in leaners, well over the 270 she needs. This is an election, Harris, as we all know, that is decided in the Electoral College. You can't be outspent, as Donald Trump has been, you know, like 100 million to 1 million or no million, and hope to win the election.
Pat, I want to talk with you a little bit just, though, about pure strategy in terms of the campaign. So you've got some people now with Donald Trump's campaign that arguably are, I mean, Kellyanne Conway is getting cheers from both sides of the political aisle for being one of the best at what she does. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think they've made change in the campaign, but I think the most important change has been with Donald Trump this week. He finally had a week with several speeches. It got somewhat overshadowed a little bit by the news about the campaign staff. But he had really Monday and Tuesday, 2 speeches, one on foreign policy, one on safety, and he began to make his populist theme. He spoke again late in the week, where he, for the first time, said he regretted things, began to have a message. Many people thought that speech, at least I read online, even Politico, which is the Hillary Clinton base in Washington with the Washington Post, said, you know, after 107 days, well, he finally does it. He finally gives the right speech. Look, being on message and having message is far more important than any of the other changes that you could have in the campaign.
All right. I want to talk a little bit now about just how the money's being spent. I know you're saying where the money's not coming from. But, I mean, if you're going to spend $400,000 on 84 people, she's got 703. You've run campaigns, John. You've won campaigns, John. You've been a senator. What does it take to
no,
win?
I was not a senator. I was a congressman.
You were a congressman.
Right.
I'm sorry.
But he does know politics.
Yes, he
Yeah.
does. And, you know, I mean, if Harris Faulkner chooses to give you a bump up, I guess we got to live with that.
If we're coming from you, it's an honor. I'll say that.
So you've
It's
won.
okay.
So what does it take? I mean, when you look at the gap of the number of people, does it matter all that
All
much?
right, let me tell you something. When you're a candidate, your name is on the ballot, you're going for this very special job of being an elected official, you should want everything going in your favor. So you want commercials. You want the best field staff you could have. I had the best pollster in both of my campaigns. One, Douglas E. Schoen, was my pollster. I had
But
the
he's
best.
a Democrat. How did that work out?
Because he's a
We're
fair
friends.
guy.
And
Okay.
But seriously, you want
School
everything.
ties are deeper.
they are.
Okay.
But no, and Pat knows this. A good campaign is all of it put together, you know. And Donald early on thought the candidate is everything. I don't need any of that other stuff. It's a different year. I don't need it. He's been brought down the learning curve in the last 2 months by all these bad polls, and he's been slapped upside the head, and he's woken up. And Kellyanne now is trying to catch the campaign up to have a decent field staff to get out the vote. They're way behind on
Well,
this.
some gifts along the way,
Well-
though, and I know how well you know the Clintons, Doug. Gifts along the way with the email scandal with Hillary Clinton, which is heating up again. I mean, it's almost mid-August at this point. It is
Yeah.
mid-August.
And look, let me be very, very candid tonight, as I try always to be. The Clintons understand that their position is a necessarily perilous one. And what I mean by that is as the polls tighten, they know that there is a large block of America that will not vote for Secretary Clinton. They know that they need to spend $1 billion herself, $1 billion with the super PACs, a total of $2 billion to try to do everything they can to win. John is right. Unless Donald Trump gets out there through the good offices of my dear friend Kellyanne Conway, who was a first-class operative, and try to match them at least in some of these swing states going forward, it's going to be tough for
Go
Donald
ahead,
Trump.
Well, look, let me say something first of all about the polls because it's important. You know, this reminds me, as I listen to the mainstream media, and even on Fox today, with a lot of people who claim to be political strategists who've never been in a presidential campaign, and a lot of people seem to think that politics only started in 2008. I just want to remind people that in 1940, let me just make 2 quick points. 1948, the pollsters, Gallup and the others,
That was your
stopped
first
polling in
campaign,
September.
right, Pat?
Pretty close. I was 2 years from being born. But anyway, they stopped polling because their experience when they first started polling was with Roosevelt. By Labor Day, the race was settled. There was no reason. It was a different election. They're acting like this election's over as opposed to being potentially the most volatile election we have seen. Number 2, at this point in this week in 1968, Hubert Humphrey came out of a Democratic convention that was a disaster. 44 to 29 down against Richard Nixon. 15 points as a sitting vice president and came within a hair of winning. These are different elections, and we have more volatility. And let me just say one thing. Yes, they have to compete, but the advertising the bad advertising is not working. It's efficiency. Good advertising will work, and it's got to match message. But so far, this is going to be decided. Is this election about Donald Trump, or is it about the country and the political class and the revolt? And if it is, he wins. And that's the question. Can he do that?